In a small town there lived a young woman named Cynthia. Cynthia was known for her stunning beauty and charm. She was often the subject of conversation, with her long, flowing hair, radiant smile, and sparkling eyes drawing admirers from every corner of the town. Her presence was like a magnet, pulling people in with an almost magical allure. However, Cynthia's charm came with a dark shadow. She was infamous for her habit of flirting with married men, leaving behind a trail of broken trust and heartache. The market square, the village well, and even the quiet corners of the town were not safe from her enchanting presence. Women whispered her name with a mix of fear and disdain, warning each other to guard their husbands' hearts against her bewitching spell. Despite her notorious reputation, Cynthia carried herself with an air of innocence. But before I continue, please, if you're watching my story and haven't clicked on that subscribe button yet, be a part of my growth. Click on the subscribe button, and I really appreciate your support. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I see you, and I'm grateful. She would laugh and chat with everyone, her melodic voice weaving through the daily hustle and bustle. Men, both young and old, found it difficult to resist her. They were drawn to her like moths to a flame, unaware or uncaring of the consequences that followed. The town elders would often shake their heads and mutter under their breath, lamenting the disruption Cynthia brought to their once harmonious community. Cynthia wasn't always like this. There was a pivotal moment in her life that led her to seek the attention of married men. She came from a very good family, where she was loved and respected. However, her life took a drastic turn when her parents passed away, leaving her alone at a young age. She was in college at the time, in the bustling city, trying to navigate the complexities of life on her own. In college, Cynthia was undeniably beautiful, and boys were naturally drawn to her. Her radiant smile and sparkling eyes were hard to ignore. But amidst all the attention, there was one boy who captured her heart. His name was Peter. Peter was not just handsome but also kind and understanding. He entered Cynthia's life during her teenage years, and their bond quickly blossomed into a deep and meaningful relationship. Despite the countless admirers, it was Peter who stood out to Cynthia. They spent countless hours together, sharing dreams, laughter, and their innermost thoughts. Though Cynthia's time in college was marked by both the excitement of youth and the heavy burden of her parents' loss, she tried to immerse herself in her studies and make new friends. But the shadow of her grief always lingered. Among her friends, there were constant whispers and concerned looks whenever Peter's name came up. One day, during a quiet lunch break in the bustling college cafeteria, her friends decided to confront her. "Cynthia, we know you care about Peter, but we need to tell you something," one of them began hesitantly. The others nodded in agreement, their expressions a mix of worry and urgency. As Cynthia listened, her heart sank. Her friends recounted stories they had heard about Peter's past. "Last year, before you were admitted here, Peter was involved with another girl," one of them said softly. "She fell in love with him, and when she got pregnant, he abandoned her. He left her alone in the hospital and disappeared." The words hit Cynthia like a punch to the gut. She felt the room spinning as her friends continued, "We just don't want to see you get hurt, Cynthia. Peter has a history of cheating and leaving girls heartbroken." Cynthia's mind raced, torn between the love she felt for Peter and the terrifying possibility that her friends' warnings were true. The seeds of doubt were planted, and her heart ached at the thought that Peter, who had brought her so much happiness, might not be the person she believed him to be. Blinded by love, Cynthia trusted Peter. One evening, Peter invited Cynthia to a night party at his friend's farmhouse. Excited by the prospect of spending more time with him, Cynthia wanted to look her absolute best. She spent hours getting ready, choosing a stunning dress that accentuated her beauty. Her hair was styled perfectly, and her makeup was done with meticulous care, highlighting her radiant features. As she looked at herself in the mirror, a sense of anticipation and joy filled her heart. This night was going to be special, and she was eager to spend it with Peter, believing wholeheartedly in the love they had. However, Cynthia had no idea what Peter truly had in mind. While she was lost in thoughts of a romantic evening, Peter had a sinister plan. He had invited a group of his friends to the party, friends who had always been infatuated with Cynthia but had faced her sharp tongue and quick rejections in college. These guys, bitter from past humiliations, saw this night as an opportunity for revenge. Peter, aware of their grudges and driven by motives unknown to Cynthia, orchestrated the entire evening. His charming exterior hid a cruel intention, one that would exploit Cynthia's trust and put her in a vulnerable position. As Cynthia made her way to the farmhouse, she was blissfully unaware of the trap that awaited her, believing only in the love she thought she shared with Peter. When she entered the farmhouse, it seemed empty, but there was Peter, waiting to welcome her. "Welcome, my love," he said with a smile. "Please come in, the party is waiting for you." Feeling happy and excited, she stepped inside. Peter offered her a drink, and although she initially refused, she eventually gave in after some coaxing. As she continued to drink, Cynthia found herself becoming increasingly intoxicated, and soon, she was fully drunk. Peter picked her up and carried her to a bedroom. Peter quickly called his friends, inviting them one by one into the farmhouse. Cynthia, lost in her intoxicated state, could only imagine that Peter was still beside her, comforting her with his presence. She had no idea where she truly was or what was happening around her. Her mind swam with blurred images and thoughts, the alcohol distorting her perception of reality. All she could see was Peter's face, hear his soothing voice, and feel a false sense of security. As the night progressed, Peter's friends arrived, their intentions sinister and malicious. Cynthia, unaware of the danger she was in, continued to believe she was safe with Peter. Her mind was too foggy to comprehend the true horror unfolding around her. The group of boys, fueled by their past grievances and the opportunity for revenge, took turns violating her, their actions leaving deep scars on her body and soul. Cynthia remained unconscious throughout the ordeal, her trust in Peter shattered in the most brutal way. When Cynthia woke the next morning, the sunlight streaming through the window cast a harsh light on her reality. She found herself alone in the bedroom, her clothes torn, and her body aching. The memories of the previous night came flooding back in fragments, each one more horrifying than the last. She realized, with sickening clarity, that she had been betrayed and violated by the very people she had once trusted. The realization was a devastating blow, leaving her feeling broken and lost. Cynthia's world had been turned upside down, and the pain of that night would haunt her for the rest of her life. Though the reality of her situation settled heavily on her shoulders, Cynthia's trust had been shattered, and she felt an overwhelming sense of shame and guilt. She couldn't believe she had been so blinded by love that she had ignored the red flags and the sincere warnings from those who truly cared for her. Standing in front of the mirror, instead of accepting her mistakes, her mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal. "I wanted to marry Peter," she thought bitterly, "and he did this to me." In the following days, Cynthia tried to get back to her normal life. She returned to college, but it was extremely difficult. Her friends, who had once warned her, now looked at her with pity and judgment. Whispers and laughter followed her through the hallways, and she felt the weight of their ridicule. The shame was too much to bear. Humiliated and heartbroken, Cynthia made the hard decision to leave college. She packed her bags and moved to another city, hoping to escape the painful memories and judgmental eyes. Cynthia wanted to start a new life, determined to leave Peter and her painful past behind. She wanted to forget the betrayal and heartache that had filled her life, seeking a fresh start. Cynthia applied for a job at a local hotel and was soon hired. The job provided her with a sense of stability and a way to distract herself from the memories that still haunted her. With new surroundings and a fresh start, she hoped to rebuild her life and find peace once again. Every day, married couples visited the hotel, and Cynthia couldn't help but notice the longing glances from the men, captivated by her beauty. Deep down, she yearned for a life like theirs, filled with love and companionship. She dreamed of a future where she could leave her painful past behind and build a life of her own. As time went on, Cynthia became accustomed to the luxury and attention that surrounded her. Many wealthy guests came not just for the luxury but to see her, captivated by her allure and elegance. Her reputation began to spread, and she quickly became famous among the elite circles. Her presence at the hotel became a draw for many, and the men who visited often harbored secret desires to be with her. However, women started to feel threatened by her beauty and the effect she had on their husbands. They began to avoid bringing their men to the hotel, fearing that Cynthia's charm would ensnare them. Whispers spread among the women, and soon Cynthia's name became synonymous with both admiration and fear. Cynthia grew used to the attention from these rich men and began to flirt with them, using her charm to capture their hearts. The memories of her past betrayal and pain drove her actions. She saw each encounter as a way to reclaim the power she had once lost. Cynthia enjoyed the control she wielded, determined to make these men feel the longing and desire that had once left her broken. In her mind, this was payback for the hurt she had endured, a way to balance the scales of her wounded pride. However, the hotel's reputation began to suffer due to Cynthia's actions. Whispers about her flirtations and the attention she received from wealthy men spread quickly. The hotel owner, worried about the negative impact on his establishment, called Cynthia in for a meeting. When confronted about her behavior, Cynthia remained silent, her expression unreadable. Seeing no other option, the owner decided to fire her. Surprisingly, Cynthia didn't seem to care about losing her job. By now, she had become a master at flirting and knew that many affluent men were infatuated with her. Without hesitation, she decided to move back to her hometown, confident that her charm would make her irresistible to the wealthy inhabitants there. Cynthia loved the attention and power she had over men, ignoring the warnings of friends and the scornful looks from the town's women, believing nothing could touch her. Her latest target was Chief Daniel, a wealthy and influential merchant who was devoted to his wife, Precious. Chief Daniel, caught in Cynthia's web, soon found himself betraying the woman who had stood by his side through thick and thin. Cynthia would often visit his office, pretending to be interested in his wares, but her true intention was to captivate him with her charm. She would linger, asking about his life, his interests, and subtly flattering him. Chief Daniel, flattered by the attention of such a beautiful young woman, found himself spending more and more time with her, neglecting his duties, and, more importantly, his wife. Precious, a graceful and dignified woman, had heard the rumors about Cynthia and her husband. Her heart ached with betrayal, but she chose to wait, hoping Chief Daniel would realize his mistake and return to their family. However, Precious' patience was wearing thin as she watched the man she loved slip further away. She tried to stay calm, focusing on her children and household chores, but the pain of seeing her husband drift away was unbearable. Friends and neighbors saw her distress and offered their support, but Precious felt alone in her struggle. She would often sit by the window at night, watching the stars and praying for a solution, hoping that Chief Daniel would come to his senses and end his affair with Cynthia. One evening, as the town prepared for a big festival, Precious noticed Chief Daniel was missing. Her heart heavy with suspicion, she followed her intuition and made her way to Cynthia's fancy home, a place known for scandal. As she approached, she heard laughter and saw the flicker of candlelight through the window. The house, beautifully decorated and filled with the scent of exotic flowers, stood in stark contrast to the turmoil stirring inside Precious' heart. With dread and determination, Precious pushed open the door and found herself staring at a sight that confirmed her worst fears, her husband in Cynthia's arms. The betrayal she had long feared was now laid bare before her eyes. Overwhelmed with hurt and anger, Precious' composure broke. Her eyes fell upon a pot of boiling water on the stove, and in a fit of blind rage, she grabbed it and threw the scalding liquid at Cynthia. Chaos erupted instantly. Cynthia's piercing scream filled the night, drawing the attention of the townspeople, who rushed to the scene. The once beautiful woman lay writhing in agony, her skin blistering and burned. Chief Daniel, horrified, tried to help her, but it was too late, the damage was done. Cynthia's injuries were severe, and the once captivating beauty who had enchanted many was now permanently scarred. The town gathered around the house, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. What had once been quiet whispers about Cynthia's flirtations now erupted into a full-blown scandal. Cynthia, once admired for her beauty, had become a tragic figure, a living reminder of the consequences of infidelity and betrayal. Chief Daniel's reputation was ruined, and he faced the scorn of the community. Once a respected merchant, he now found himself struggling as people whispered and judged him wherever he went. His business suffered, and the once thriving merchant struggled to make ends meet. Precious, though justified in her anger, was haunted by guilt for her violent actions. She had never imagined she could do something so drastic. Though her love for Chief Daniel remained, it was now overshadowed by the deep hurt he had caused her. Their marriage, once a pillar of stability, was now fragile, strained by mistrust and remorse. Precious sought solace in her faith, praying for forgiveness and guidance. She found it difficult to look at her husband without feeling a painful mix of love and betrayal. Even their children, sensing the tension, became withdrawn and quiet, adding to Precious' heavy burden of guilt. Cynthia, isolated and shunned, spent her days reflecting on her choices and the pain she had caused others. The vanity and arrogance that once drove her actions were now replaced by deep regret. She sought solace in solitude, moving to a small, secluded house on the outskirts of the town, far from the judgmental whispers of the community. Her days were spent in self-reflection, prayer, and simple acts of kindness, as she tried to atone for her past mistakes. Meanwhile, Chief Daniel, burdened by guilt for his actions, worked tirelessly to regain Precious' trust. He realized too late the value of the love and loyalty he had once taken for granted. Slowly, with patience and genuine remorse, he and Precious began the long process of rebuilding their relationship. Piece by piece, they sought counseling, received advice from elders, and worked to heal the wounds in their marriage. Chief Daniel severed all ties with Cynthia, focusing solely on repairing the damage he had done to his family. Though it was a difficult and arduous process, step by step, they began to find their way back to each other. And so, the story of Cynthia, Chief Daniel, and Precious became a powerful lesson for the entire community. It underscored the importance of fidelity, the fragility of trust, and the far-reaching consequences of betrayal. The visible and invisible scars left behind served as a stark reminder of the emotional turmoil caused by infidelity. Parents used the story as a cautionary tale for their children, teaching them the value of honesty, integrity, and the sanctity of relationships. In the end, Cynthia's journey became one of redemption and humility. She learned that true beauty lay not in outward appearances but in the integrity of one's actions and the sincerity of one's heart. The events of that fateful night led the community to embrace a renewed commitment to honesty, loyalty, and the bonds that held them together. Thanks for watching my story. Please share, like, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this.